Indeed, yeah. Early September, back to school, back to work, back to Dubai, and an opportunity for us to get the thoughts and the opinions of leaders in business and industry. And those opinions don't get much bigger than our special guest here this morning. It is a warm welcome back to the Business Breakfast to the Minister of State for Foreign Trade. His Excellency Dr. Thani Al Zeyoudi joins us live on the line, live via Microsoft Teams. Your Excellency, thank you so much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for having me again.
An opportunity then for us to take a pulse of the year that was thus far and look ahead to the year that is as well. Let's start with the past. And again, I mean, we talk about setting the bar pretty high. It doesn't get much higher than the UAE's non-oil foreign trade records and numbers that we've seen in the first half of 2022. Recording a new milestone exceeding 1 trillion dirhams. We've seen positive numbers in non-oil exports, re-exports, imports and more. Again, expecting more of the same moving forward for the rest of this year?
Absolutely. It's really a significant growth which we had in the first half of this year. We exceeded for the first time in the history 1 trillion dirhams. And that was a 17% growth in comparison to last year, 25% to 2020 and 35% to pre-COVID 2019 numbers. We're moving ahead toward exceeding the 2 trillion, hopefully, before the end of the year, especially with the two mega CPAs getting into force before the end of the year. And we expect as well to conclude in the upcoming few months.
Let's talk about special relationships if we can. We mentioned how CSPs have become CPAs now. That relationship with India is one that seems to grow and grow and grow. And that's been helped in no small part by visits both from you and your team over to India and vice versa as well. Is this a relationship that will continue to grow with the new fifth largest economy in the world?
Absolutely. It's the first comprehensive common partnership agreement which we signed and came into effect as well this year. We noticed that there is a growth in our bilateral trade in the first half, 20%, but also in terms of the exports to India, it jumped in the first 2 months of the effectiveness of the agreements by 65%, which is valued to 9.1 billion. It shows the potential between both nations. We just had the joint committee last year led by His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah. More to come in this relation with the I2U2 project, the direct strategic investments with India, and vice versa, having many of the investments coming here and settling down their businesses in the UAE, movements of some of the big businesses to the UAE. I'm sure this relation will just flourish.
Relationships the world over as well. I mean, obviously that very special and historic relationship with India, but lest we forget, it's been a busy year for you, Your Excellency, over in the United States, Florida, Washington and elsewhere in June of this year. You were in Colombia in August of this year. Is it integral that the UAE maintains those relationships, those trade and commercial relationships with other parts of the world?
Well, our strategy is to ensure that there is a diversity on our investments and trade relations. And with this movements, trying to solidify some of the relations, but also opening and ensuring that there is a growth mode in some of the other relations. What we're working heavily on is to ensure that we're really moving away from being just gateway to the region, to a gateway to the whole world by having this openness, the right ecosystem where business people can fly in here and trade can go through the UAE, get the right added value, and from here goes to the rest of the world. And at the same time, we want to ensure that we do have access to various commodities, services, whenever there is a need for it. We noticed that when we saw this during the pandemic, and we want to make sure that we overcome all the barriers and the challenges which faced the world during those tough times by this ensuring strong relations with all parts of the world.
You've led some very high-powered delegations to different parts of the world. You've also been very active in the first half of this year and continuing into the second half of this year of meeting with family-owned businesses here in the region, well-known family-owned businesses and conglomerates. Is that part and parcel of reminding them of the vital role they will play in building relationships moving forward?
Well, the private sector in general and family-owned businesses are an integral part of our economy, and we're working on the final touches of the family-owned business laws, which is going to be attractive to the regional and global companies to come and have their presence in the UAE, and at the same time ensuring the protections and sustainability of the companies that are based here in the UAE. Meanwhile, we're trying to bring the best practices and ensure that they're integrated into our policies and directions. We're not just working toward fulfilling the demands of the government or semi-governmental companies, but also those companies which are contributing to the GDP. There are few conferences going to happen in the upcoming few months, but also we're going to have a dedicated session under the patronage of the ministry, just dedicated on and looking after the family-owned businesses in the UAE.
We've just talked there about the extraordinary non-oil foreign trade numbers that have been recorded in the first half of this year. We're seeing a property sector booming at the moment. Tourism is back as well. There seems to be a very positive glow around all things Dubai, all things UAE at the moment, which seems to be in stark contrast to some of the inflation stories we're seeing in other parts of the world. How do you deal with that? Positivity here in Dubai, where a little bit of negativity in other parts of the world?
Well, our strategy is to continue the growth. The challenges is facing everyone. It's not only to the UAE or to a certain part of the world. But we have to look at the positive side, and we have to look for opportunities so we can move on. From our side, we're putting the right directions toward the trade, FDI inflow to the country, non-oil GDP, and ensuring that there is no disturbance to supply chain, and ensuring that we're controlling the inflations of the commodities within the country. So we're integrated of the global economy, but we're trying to do our best to ensure that we're minimizing the consequences on our nation.
A busy 4 months ahead for all of us. The first FIFA World Cup coming to the region. I'm sure that will have an impact here in the UAE as well. What would you say, Your Excellency, is top of you and your team's to-do list for the rest of this year?
Well, there are a few things that we have to conclude before the end of the year. First of all, we're aiming to conclude 2 more CEPAs. One of them is with Turkey. I'm sure we're going to conclude that within the upcoming few weeks. We have to sign the Colombia agreement, which is almost done as well. And we're going to kick off a few CEPAs with some other countries. But those 2 are going to be the concluded one for the end of the year. And we want to ensure that we're starting the activation of both Indonesia and Israel agreements. The other thing which we're working heavily on is ensuring that there is a continuation of attraction of businesses and big companies. We launched a month ago the Next Gen FDI initiative, and the result is amazing. We're having more than 60 companies so far, and we're talking to more than 300 companies. So we're going to hit the target before the end of the year on that sphere. And at the same time, we're going to continue looking for more opportunities for our sovereign wealth funds companies globally as well.
Your Excellency, we can't thank you enough for your time this morning. Congratulations again to you and the rest of the Ministry for those extraordinary non-oil foreign trade numbers for the first half of the year, and all the best for the remainder of this year. That was His Excellency Dr. Thani Al Zeyoudi, who is the Minister of State for Foreign Trade, speaking to us live this morning on the Majlis right here on the Business Breakfast.
Dubai Eye 103.8.
Join the conversation.